Hello, welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger on April 13, 2023. Who is this little snobbish looking kid? Well, that is Draco Malfoy. If you are a fan of Harry Potter, which I'm not, you would probably recognize him no problem. He's one of the more minor, I guess you can say minor antagonist, one of the minorly bad guy in Harry Potter. I mean, he was a little bit more important in the first few novels in the beginning, when uh, him and his family and his little cronies were more of a problem for Harry and his friend. But later on, Malfoy basically just became uh, not that important, really. Like he didn't really have much to do with anything else, uh, which is kind of surprising to me because when I first read Harry Potter, I always thought that Draco would end up playing, if not the most important uh, antagonistic role. Yeah, he should at least be one of the more important players in the whole story. But he kind of got relegated to just being a sideline character near the end there. Now, we are going to be talking about Harry Potter today because we're celebrating Teen Literacy Day or National Teen Literacy Day today. And when it comes to literature for young adults, you just can't beat Harry Potter. Like I said, I'm not much into Harry Potter. I'm not really a big fan. I did read the entire story. I did watch some of the movies. Uh, and it was relatively enjoyable for the most part. But let me put it this way, without bashing the story or stuff like that, it's just too juvenile for my taste. I like fantasy, I like magic, I like that kind of stuff, but my adult lean a little bit more mature than Harry Potter, and that is not the book's fault. That is not the story's fault because it is clearly written to be enjoyed by young adults and children and alike. So me reading it as an adult, obviously, I was going to find it a little bit uh, lacking, uh, and there's some part that logic just didn't stand. The whole thing about only evil people should be able to use killing magic, and good people didn't use killing magic, and even though they're wizard, if you stick a knife in them, they'll still die, and so it kind of makes me wonder, like, why didn't Harry Potter just buy a gun and or stuff like that, or get a crossbow, learn some archery, and the whole story would be over really quickly. Anyway, those are just like some of the stuff that I, as an adult reader, found problematic with the story. Uh, but that aside, there's no arguing Harry Potter is probably the most successful set of novels and the most successful story written for young adults today. So what is this Teen Literacy Day? Well, it was started by the Young Adult Library Service Association in the U.S. around 2007 to encourage young people to read more. Did you know this, that back in 1980, the amount of high school seniors that would read for fun was about 60%. And then by 2016, it's go all the way down to about 15%. Yeah, it's really, really sad. We really need to encourage our young people to read more and uh, get away from social media. Yeah. So kids, yeah, as much as I'm not really a fan of Harry Potter, go read some Harry Potter and get off Facebook, get off Twitter. Leave Facebook and Twitter to those of us who are adults and not really enjoy Harry Potter. Yeah. Anyway, that's my PSA of the day. So like I said, when you talk about literature for young adults, you can't beat Harry Potter. This is why we opened the show with Draco Malfoy here. This action figure of Draco was made by Mattel in I think year 2000, 2001. So yeah, it is kind of antiquated. It's a bit of an antique. He is not very big, he's not very mobile, he's not very well made, which is why we only use him to open the show. We are not going to do an episode just on Draco here, because if I have to do a show on Draco, I'm going to run out of things to say in a couple of sentences. Yeah, he's small, he's not very well articulated, he's kind of not very well made. He's kind of boring. You can't really do anything much with him. You can pose him with his head looking forward, looking left, looking right, his arms up, his arm down. That's it. There's not much else you can do with him. So that's basically it. There's not much of an action figure here. He's pretty small, and there's not much about him to talk about, really. But the person we are going to, the figure we are going to bring in for today's main course definitely is a lot better. And there is quite a bit to talk about when it comes to this character. So let's get to it. When he was young, the kid called Tom Riddle already displayed some psychopathic tendency. He liked to use his magic to influence other kids and punish other kids when they disobey him. However, he was a good-looking kid, and he was born from a father who was mortal and a mother who was a witch. Even from an early age, Tom Riddle had displayed an aptitude toward dark magic, and he very soon started down the path of studying the dark forbidden arts. But he was so good at deceiving others that many of his teachers at schools did not realize that he was into the dark art, and he was able to fool most of his teachers and other people that came across him. To them, he was a genius. He was the best honor roll model student. He was smart. He was a quick learner. He was charming, charismatic, a good leader for among his peers, and almost perfect at every kind of magic that he would encounter. But secretly, Tom Riddle had started down the path of becoming one of the most dangerous Dark Wizard, Dark Lord of all time. When he started becoming the Dark Lord, he changed his name, and from that point on, he was known as Voldemort. But many people wouldn't even dare mention his name, so they would just say, "You know who." A true psychopath, Voldemort had no problem with killing people or bending others to his will. In his eyes, no one was as important as himself and his control of the world. His only love, only goal in his life was immortality and being able to rule the entire world, magical or otherwise. He gathered a great group of dark wizards and sorcerers and other evil creatures around him. Many of these people were called the Death Eaters, and he used them to do his bidding, usually pulling the string from the dark, from behind the scene, to manipulate events that were going on in the magical world. Eventually, though, he did meet his doom, but unfortunately, even though his body was destroyed, his soul, or what you can pass as soul for a Dark Lord, did not die. I mean, there's a bit of a copying Lord of the Ring here. So they destroyed his body, but his spirit lingered on and was just waiting, plotting for his return. And eventually he did. He did come back and had his second go around, which was basically what happened throughout most of the book in Harry Potter was the return of the Dark Lord and the destined showdown between Harry Potter and the Dark Lord at the very end. I'm not going to give you too much spoilers, although I imagine by this time most of you have read, watched, or both Harry Potter series multiple times in many cases. So there's really no spoiler here to be had. Voldemort is often seen as a demonic looking humanoid creature who is tall and very skeletal thin. He's very slender, and his face is kind of snake-like. He has a bald head, red slitted eyes, and he doesn't have a nose. He just have like slits for nostrils, and just like a really pale looking creature with creepy looking long spidery fingers on his hand. Despite his thin and maybe frail appearance, he is quite physically strong. He is able to physically dominate a teenager like Harry Potter and many others. And when it comes to magic, there's not many people that is more dangerous and deadly than the Dark Lord himself. He is versed in using fire and lightning magic. He can use not just his own magic wand. He can use any other people's magic wand, almost like they were his own. He is also able to use magic even without conjuring them with wand or speaking his incantation out loud, which is a rarity in the magical world. As most of us have seen in Harry Potter, when they most people when they have to use magic, they either have to focus the magic through their magic wand, or they at least have to speak the magical chant, the words, the phrases, to focus their magic. The Dark Lord, you know who, Voldemort, he doesn't have to do that. He can actually just make things happen by focusing them in his head. Now, when he has his wand in his hand, uh, he can make things a lot more powerful, of course, but he is able to move objects, lift things that are a lot heavier than himself, and throw people across the room, or disarm people without lifting a hand or speaking a single word. He is also one of the best duelists in the magical world, almost immortal, almost impossible to kill. I mean, they destroyed his body, and he came back from that. In addition to all those things, like I said earlier, he's charismatic, he's very charming, he's very good at lying to people, makes them do his bidding, great leader, very scheming, very good tactician, very good actor. He can, when he pretend to be someone else, disguise himself, other people usually get fooled by him. He is also versed in creating magical potions, using some devastating, deadly dark magic, and he is a master at necromancy as well. He can summon and reanimate dead creatures and corpses to make them do his bidding. He is also very accomplished at manipulating animals to make animals do his bidding, in particular, communicating with serpents. And he has a pet snake called Nagini that follows him around and does his bidding. We'll see Nagini in a little bit. So this action figure of Voldemort was made by Todd McFarlane. Uh, I guess I'm thinking 4 years ago, but like 2018, 2017, so somewhere around that. Okay, so when I first heard that Todd McFarlane was taking on the Harry Potter license, honestly, I was really excited because back when Mattel made their Harry Potter figures in early 2000s, uh, they were so awful and boring and just not very good. And I basically bought the Draco Malfoy figure we saw in the beginning of the video, and then I was so disappointed on how wonky and boring a figure that was, and I didn't buy any more Harry Potter figures from made by Mattel. So when I heard McFarlane was taking over the Harry Potter license, I was excited, even though I'm not a big fan of Harry Potter. There are many, many interesting creatures in Harry Potter, like trolls and griffins and giant spiders and uh, 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 half giant werewolves and dragon stuff like that. That I was really looking forward to see from McFarlane, because if most of us know from Todd McFarlane is he make awesome monster action figures. That the guy has a gift making awesome monster action figures. But then what happened? McFarlane made three of the main characters and Lord Voldemort, which I got here, uh, and I think there were two monsters, and one of them was a well, uh, Buckbeak, the hippogriff, and that was not very well made. Like, well, I mean, nothing is intrinsically wrong with him other than it's like way too small. Uh, so honestly, I was really disappointed because McFarlane didn't really hit his stride with Harry Potter. He kind of quit after making the first series of them. I guess they didn't sell very well. Uh, I myself only got the Hippogriff and Lord Voldemort, and I even with the two figures I got, the Hippogriff was really, really disappointing. It's like tiny, the size of a dog, basically. And I'm not talking about like the size of a real dog. I'm talking about the size of an action figure dog for 6-inch figures. It's like super small. Um, Lord Voldemort, on the other hand, it's a pretty okay figure. I am I'm not saying that there's anything really wrong with the Lord Voldemort figure. It just his design doesn't really lend to very interesting action figure. He's a tall, scrawny guy with weird looking head, and he wears a robe, black robe that cover most of his body, and that's about it. Like there's no interesting hairstyle. There's no interesting uh, uh, biological details. There's no interesting giant muscles or horns or claws or cool looking armor, nothing like that. He's just a scrawny guy with a weird head in a black robe. That's it. Uh, but hey, I got him because he's a Dark Lord, and I figured that I didn't want any of the main characters because they wouldn't really fit in with my collection. But the Dark Lord himself definitely would look like a cool looking evil wizard on your shelf. I mean, he's an evil wizard no matter where you put him. So as far as displays goes, he's actually quite versatile, meaning that you don't need to have a Harry Potter display to display this guy. If you have a fantasy display, you can just get him to stand in the background commanding your demons and skeletons, and he'll look just fine in the background. Uh, so that's why I got him. And as an action figure goes, he's not a bad figure. He's a very well articulated, and if you have grown up in the 90s and you know how bad McFarlane was in making articulated action figure in the 90s, you know this was a marvel. This was a wonder that he could make something this articulated today. The robe he's wearing is actually made out of soft cloth and has velcros in the front. So if you want your Dark Lord to be a flasher, a flash his scrawny chest at the world, you can do that. You can actually take the entire robe off. I don't know why you would want to, but you could. I'm not going to do it on camera because it's really finicky. Okay, it's really hard to get off and on, and this figure is relatively old, so I don't want to risk breaking off his arm when I'm struggling to get his robe back on. And like I said, there's really no reason why you ever would display him naked without his robes. So we'll just leave things as it is. This action figure has a little bit of a hard time standing. I don't know why. It's just the positioning of his feet and legs, even though they're really well articulated. He like if you try to get him to stand, it take a bit of messing around with his legs to get him to stand in natural position. Luckily, he does come with a display base, and it does say Harry Potter on the base. There's one foot peg on the base that you can attach his right foot to, and the base will make him a lot more steady when you're trying to display him. He also comes with his magic wand, the Elder Wand, that he can grip in his right hand. And because he has some cool articulation, he can get into a few wand pointing, wand waving poses. Now, even though technically he can hold the wand pretty good, it is very small, and when you bump him the wrong way and he falls over, he will drop that wand. And because it's so skinny, be careful not to lose it in the carpet or if it roll under the couch or desk because you'll never find this sucker again. And he's not going to look as cool without the wand. In addition to the removable robe, the display stand, and the wand, he comes with one last item, which honestly was really the reason why I got him. Uh, because I knew in the outset that Voldemort is going to be a kind of boring looking action figure. I knew what he looked like from the novels and movies, descriptions and stuff like that. So I knew he wasn't going to be anything like Sauron from Lord of the Ring or uh, Arthas or the Lich King from uh, Warcraft. Almost forgot the property name there. I knew that he doesn't look anything like those guys. He's kind of a boring looking dude. Um, one of the major reasons that I got him was because he came with his pet snake, the genie. Now, I'm usually a sucker for action figures that come with pets, animal sidekicks, and stuff like that. Because I think we can definitely use more pet, animal, psychic, species, monsters on the shelf. So when I knew that Voldemort came with a giant serpent as a part of the set, I knew I was going to get him regardless. And this is not just a lump of immovable plastic too. The genie here is beautifully sculpted and has 4 points of articulation. So you can point her, you can pose her rearing up to strike, like the way this is, or let's use the hand. I know I don't usually show my hand in the video, but when it's something this small, I figure that if I hold her, you'll probably see it a lot better. You can have her lying flat like this, so she can like curl up on the floor, uh, and you can have her sit flat like this. Uh, so she has several display options, and the scale texture on this snake is amazing. It's a feels almost like real snake. The scales on this thing is so well done. Um, and you can see how big she is. Like comparing to my hand, quite big, even when she's curled up. And when you rear her up, she's not obviously not quite as tall as Voldemort, especially when Voldemort is standing up on his display base. But when you put her on the display base with him, I'm assuming the genie is a her. It's a she. I vaguely remember in the book it's a she, but I might be wrong. When you put the snake on the base with him, you'll really appreciate the size of this snake. Pretty cool. Uh, I was going to make a joke about the Dark Lord standing there petting his snake, but that just sounds wrong, so we won't even do that. Anyway, before we end today's video, let's do a quick size comparison, although it's going to be a little bit difficult to do a proper size comparison with him standing on his base. So we'll take him off the base and bring in a few figures so you can see how he display with other fantasy action figures. Here is Lord Voldemort in the back and commanding a pair of skeletal lizard man action figures. These are the dead frames from Golden Axe video game made by Storm Collectibles. Uh, it's a little bit hard to tell how big or small, but you can sort of tell that uh, standing fully upright, the dead frame maybe slightly bigger than, slightly taller anyway, than Voldemort. But seeing how they are like mystical, mythological skeleton, uh, it doesn't really matter how big or small they are. They do look pretty good, commanded by this evil wizard. And here is Lord Voldemort standing next to the Chrome Witch from Sleepy Hollow, also by Todd McFarlane, although this one was made about 20 years ago. Voldemort is about 7 inches tall, so definitely a little bit taller than the witch, but they do look fitting together. They make a nice evil pair there. And here is Voldemort with a demon from the Evil Dead. I can't remember this demon's name. Yeah, getting old, can't remember the name of all my action figures, but this is one of the demon. I think he's like he worked off of fear, scaring people and all that stuff, and he's from the Evil Dead TV series, I believe. And even though there was no demon, technically no demon in Harry Potter, I believe, I'm pretty sure if there was a demon, it would be uh, sort of like this, working with the Dark Lord and all that. And here is a Schleich Algedor series Lava Scorpion. uh, Pretty fitting for someone like Voldemort to command. He's good with commanding animals, and he's specialized in using fire and lightning to kill people. So I imagine the lava scorpion is right up his alley. And just for shits and giggles, here's a White Walker from Game of Thrones Funko Legacy Collection, standing next to the Dark Lord, and you can tell that they're obviously different scale. The White Walker here was made for a 6-inch scale, while the Dark Lord is like 7 inches tall. So it looked like the Dark Lord is towering over this zombie. But again, see how he is supposed to be the Dark Lord. He's supposed to be tall and imposing. That's okay. So this kind of wraps up today's video. As you can hopefully you can see uh, the even though his design is nothing to write home about, Voldemort is a very versatile action figure with great articulation, a great serpent companion, and he does kind of display fine with a lot of the fantasy-based action figures like zombies and skeletons and demons and stuff like that. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back again tomorrow for some Fitness Friday. For now, have a good rest of the night.